on the snap, Vincent.
How much do you actually know about your break? If I ask you about your break, you know what you're going to tell me? I'm not making a ball on the break, or I always make a ball on the break, or I break from here, or I break from here. You're going to give me some information that I could have picked up just actually listening to you break the balls. This is not what I'm asking you about. I mean, how much do you know about your break? What percentage of the time do you make a ball? Not what do you think you make, what is the actual percentage of times you are making a ball? Are you making a ball more frequently on a 9-foot table than on a 7-foot table? Probably not. Are you making more balls on a table that's covered with good cloth or tables that are covered with bad cloth? You probably don't have any idea, but you should, because a lot of you are measuring your break by the wrong numbers. You think that you measure your break by the number of balls that are made on the break. Well, there's a lot of things that are more important, believe it or not, than whether or not you made a ball on the break the last time you broke or the last 10 times you broke. Because a lot of you have very good dynamic breaks with good fundamentals, and you haven't made a ball on the break in weeks. Well, the reality is a lot of the break in 8-ball, even 9-ball to some extent, is luck. Other than making the wing ball in 9-ball and sending the first ball, the 1 ball, over to the side pocket, the rest of the rack is very predictable. Those 2 shots are pretty much consistent. And the same thing with an 8-ball rack. If you are hitting the head ball, which is highly, highly recommended, there are certain things that are predictable. The first 2 balls in the rack are going to head over to the side pockets. And just about anywhere you hit it from the center of the table, which I recommend breaking from here instead of here, those 2 wing balls, in this case the brown ones, the 7 and the 15, are going to come off of these 2 rails, then these 2 rails, and then head for those corner pockets. And you're like, what? Yes, it happens all the time as long as you're breaking from here, but you don't see it happening. And the reason you don't is because by the time they come off of 4 rails, usually something has interfered with those balls. So that's what happens for most breaks. But what we're talking about is your break. Why don't you keep a log for the next 100 times you break, whether it takes an afternoon or a year? The next 100 breaks you have, keep the following information for me. Number 1, how often are you actually making a ball on the break? And is it a head ball or one of these 2 behind the head ball? I'm not concerned about the other ones. The 15-7 thing, all luck. What happens to those balls as they come around the table? The worst players on the planet make those same balls come around the table. As long as they're not interfered with, they end up going in those pockets. It's pretty cool the way it works. Number 2, I want you to log how often you control the cue ball. If you are trying to keep the cue ball in the center of the table, I want you to keep track of how often you keep it between this diamond on this side of the side pocket and this diamond on this side of the side pocket. And the reason is because that is the spot, the ideal area of the table for most games where you are leaving the ball. There are going to be situations where other balls come and knock the cue ball out of that zone. But let's find out how often you're keeping it there, assuming that's your target. Now, when I break for 9-ball, the center of the table is not my target. I like the cue ball down this end of the table. And the reason I like it down this end of the table is because this is where the 1 is coming. Okay? The 1 doesn't go in the side from where I break. The 1 is coming down here. So I like the cue ball to be down here with the 1 ball. The center of the table is not bad, but I'll take a shot on the 1 ball within 3 feet rather than within 7 feet. Next thing I want you to measure is how many balls on the break actually end up in the kitchen. The kitchen would be from this line where your spot is on the table and back. But one of the best barometers of a good break, of a break where you scattered the table, is how many balls end up down here. So if you're an 8-ball player, if you're not getting 3, 4, maybe 5 balls that are ending up past that side pocket, then your balls are staying down that end of the table, and that is not the ideal 8-ball rack. It certainly is not the ideal 9-ball rack unless you're trying to soft break and just run everything off with a half a table, which is the reason we have the 3-point rule, because guys mastered the art of just soft breaking and having a whole bunch of short shots. You're going to measure how many balls you make on the break, how often you stay in your zone, how many balls you get to the opposite end of the table. You could use the side pocket or you could use the kitchen. Now that you have that information, you're also going to include something else. Where did you break from? Did you break from here or did you break from here? Because I suggest you mix it up. If you mix it up, what you will have is data that tells you when you're breaking a certain way from a certain location of the table, do you have more control than other times? Are you bringing more balls down table, in effect spreading the table out better when you're breaking from certain areas? Are you making more balls when you're breaking from certain areas? So you will gather a lot of data, real-time, accurate data, not what you think happened, but real-time accurate data about what is truly going on with your break. And from that information, you will have an idea of whether or not you should be breaking from here or here or here, whether or not you should be putting more low on the ball because you're not getting the cue ball in the area that you want, whether or not you should be hitting the break softer or harder, depending on what's happening to the break. And you don't have to use the barometers that I gave you. If you have something that you think is more important than number of balls made, number of balls in the kitchen, the location of the cue ball, if you have some other items that you want to add or take out of that list, go ahead, but keep score. And you have to do a large number. At the minimum 50, I recommend 100. Don't do it 10 times and tell me, Brian, I make more balls when I break from here than here, and that's not real data. You need large numbers to have anything that is worth intelligently talking about, because that's the problem with the situation now. You think that one thing is happening in another because you have selective memory. So if you're truly serious about having a good break, if you're truly serious about your pool game, keep good scores and let me know when you're along the way how you're making out so far. Have a great day. This video here is going to take you to the next step. So make sure you're checking it out and hit the subscribe button. Give us a thumbs up and I'll talk to you soon.